Ian, we have a Patreon.
We do.
How do you access it?
Go to patreon.com/CU podcast. And oh boy, the things you can access. The full video podcast goes up there. I do a writing about once a week. We just posted one this past week. I do a monthly hangout. This month's hangout was a lot of fun, and we do a poll topic every week that you can vote on, and we will discuss it.
All right. In third place, brought back the two good ones. They're going to stay. I might just 1 week say don't vote on this one and vote on two. Besides Super Mario 35, what retro games could make good Battle Royale games? 22%. And 24%, second place. They're always like right next to each other. What do you miss most about gaming conventions? That would be such a good topic, people. I'm not trying to push you, but that'd be a good topic. And in first place, the new topic. What are your least favorite popular arcade games? So arcade games that were popular that you did not like, Ian.
I fucking hate Space Invaders. I hate Space Invaders. I can't stand Space Invaders. The original Space Invaders, the first Space Invaders. It's slow.
That's asteroids.
It's slow. It's stressful. I understand why it was important. I understand why it took the world by storm. But any other space shooter from that era plays better and is more exciting. I love the look of the Space Invaders. I love all that. But Galaxian plays far better than Space Invaders.
Galaxian is leagues ahead, and that only came out a year later. And
yeah,
it's leagues ahead.
I cannot get into Space Invaders.
It's important.
Yes.
78. We're talking about we got past. This is early video games in arcades, so you needed Space Invaders. You needed that game. Otherwise, it was just Midway's gunfight that was out there. They were talking simple ass shit in the late 70s up to 79.
And the simplicity is fine. I really hate the whole they land on the ground and the game is over. Honestly, it's a terrifying scene to me.
They go fast
and then hit the ground. That's actually kind of frightening to me. It's stressful. So part of it is just I don't like the stress involved, but I don't like it as a game mechanic. Kill me or give me one death condition, not two death conditions. That's kind of how I feel about that.
Obviously we give it slack because it's 78.
Sure.
It's so old. And there wasn't really a game like that.
But there have been plenty of Space Invader updates and upgrades since then that are great. I loved the Space Invader Extreme games. They took that property and
they extended it.
They extended it, and and they made great stuff with it. But yeah, original Space Invaders. I some people still talk about how they love it. I don't like to go back to the original Space Invaders at all. Another game I don't like. I've got
real quick. That was on my list, my short list as well.
Oh, okay.
Because while you love the cabinet, it's a beautiful cabinet. It's a historic game. One of the most important games ever, Norm, in video game history. It's on the list. Maybe not number one, but it gets to that point where I can get past 2, maybe 3 stages. It's designed to there's no way anyone with even a decent proficiency can get far in Space Invaders. It's designed just to take your quarters. It gets to that point where it gets too fast. You have one shot at a time. One shot. And if you miss a couple, it's you're way behind. And once you get to that point where they get super fast, you're done. The game's over. You'll lose all your lives in a second.
Yeah.
Even you built them up. It's just at the time, obviously important, revolutionary at the time, but not a well-designed game even a year or so later. It's not a well-designed game. Sorry, what's your next one?
But my other one is Asteroids. I really don't care for
that's
Asteroids.
What I'll fight you about.
Really don't care for Asteroids. It's not that I think it's a bad game. I've never been able to get into any sort of groove on Asteroids. I've never found myself craving playing Asteroids. I understand the appeal of it. I like vector graphics, even black and white. It's a nice, simple looking game. Everything about Asteroids, on paper, it comes together and it looks great. I don't personally find Asteroids particularly fun. I am not a fan of Asteroids.
I'm surprised. I really think that there's a lot more going on to that. The control scheme is really nice once you get used to it.
Tons of stuff going on. I don't think I don't dislike it because I think it's overly simple or overly complicated. It's just never clicked with me. I've never clicked with Asteroids.
It clicked with me. That's the one early pre-1980 video game that clicked with me. It was always Asteroids for some reason. That's the one where I was I love the control scheme. It's one of those easy to learn, hard to master games.
Sure.
You just spin around and shoot asteroids, but you really got to get moving. and get away from those spaceships. Those spaceships AI is actually pretty good for those little guys. They shoot at you, and they're like hard to. Yeah, I really, as I grew older, I appreciated asteroids more and more, and surprisingly more and more as I got older. There, that one to me, I hate to say it, it held up to me. And the other ones, or those are the big ones? In your
Those
list?
are the big two that I could think of immediately.
No mention of Double Dragon, huh?
Oh, God, that's right. No, I mean, I was thinking earlier, but yeah, I mean, we've already been down that road before. I fucking hate the original Double Dragon. I think it's dog shit.
All right. Okay. All right. My list. Well, I did have Space Invaders on the list. I almost said the original Pac-Man, but I always enjoyed Pac-Man. I just sucked at it when I was small. I was like, yeah, I barely get past the first stage.
It's fair. It's a fair statement.
gotta be
but I
good at
don't think anyone. I don't think anyone who's like, oh, I love Pac-Man is really necessarily thinking the original Pac-Man. As much as I hate to say it, I think a lot of people go, well, no, I'd rather play Ms. Pac-Man. Pac-Man's fun. I will drop a quarter in when I go to an arcade and see it, and I like the speed. It's a fun game, but I don't pine for Pac-Man
versus Miss, even. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was a like almost a perfect sequel there. All right. Here's the ones that two are gonna piss off Ian. Dragon's Lair. Never liked it. I appreciate the artwork. Quarter eater. I don't like any game where you have to learn how to play it and it's impossible to get past it the first time you play it, even theoretically. Basically, it's just never liked it.
Oh, it's an awful game.
I tried playing it as a kid. I mean, I put in the 50 cents and I can maybe get 2 or 3 moves in. And I was just like, no, this isn't. I understand why it was popular for that time, but you know.
It's an awful game. And I think had I grown up in an era where I remember being at the arcades, but where I had the money to play it more often, I probably would have hated it had I grown up but
oh yeah, I can understand it was an event. I was too young to be there when it first came out.
I do love the look. I love Don Bluth. I love Don Bluth animation. And I think a lot of my enjoyment of Dragon's Lair has now come from the fact that there are tons of home releases of it, and I can sit there and actually have fun with it now without it costing me a ton of money, figuring out all the inputs, memorizing it, and I do have fun assembling a good run. But it's not it's not fun to me in the way other video games are.
No, it's the original QuickTime event thing.
Yeah.
Just click that, and it's not a game, really. I mean, it's a game, but not in the true sense. All right, the one Ian's gonna punch me for, Burger Time Can Eat Me. Never understood the appeal. I think it's more about the characters and the theme versus the actual gameplay. The actual gameplay is not good to me at all. I like to think I'm a decent video game player. I cannot wrap my head around strategies in Burger Time easily. I think they pursue too quickly the enemies. You don't get enough pepper, and it's just too difficult.
What is your primary mode of experience with Burger Time?
Primary mode. I did play in the arcade a little bit from what I remember, but mostly probably the NES version.
The NES version of Burger Time is notoriously known for being dog shit.
Okay.
It's just garbage. That said, my love of Burger Time does not stem necessarily from the arcade game itself. It stems from the nearly perfect Game Boy version that adds just enough, changes the AI, fucks with the levels just enough to make it...
It tinkers with it to make it a better game?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, my love of Burger Time is never... I mean, the Nintendo version of Burger Time is fucking awful.
All right.
It's like unplayably bad.
All right. I remember the marathon last time. You said, let me have a track of this, and you had problems, I think, even on the second stage with it. I'm like, well, this is not making your case for Burger Time.
No, it's just it's a very bad version.
Hell, I'll try the Game Boy version, Ian, for you. I'll get
Burger Time Deluxe is wonderful.
I'll get out my GBASP and I'll try it out for that. That's on my list. Now I just lost the other one thinking about Burger Time. Shit. What was the one I just fucking lost in my head? Damn it. The one I hated back then, I've grown to love it. I could not, back in the day, play Paperboy to save my freaking life with those controls. Now I'm good at it. Now I'm better than I thought I'd be using the handlebar controls. Back when I was 5 and 6, oh boy, I don't think I could make it 5 houses deep in that game. But maybe a little more dexterity as I'm older. That's one that I hated back then, but I grew to love for sure. This is one that might be controversial, and I don't care This is one that to me works, at least to me, better in theory than practice. I'm not the biggest fan of QBert. I like it for what it is. I do not think. I think it's more about the theme, the characters, versus the gameplay that people are in love with that. Or maybe I just like the fact that it ramps up the difficulty pretty quickly, whereby I say that the third or fourth stage, you're usually in trouble by that point. I'm not saying it's a terrible game. For me, it never clicked with me the way like Asteroids never clicked with you. I enjoyed a little bit, but never like, well, this is one of the greatest arcade games ever. I'm like,
It's a game I've always wanted to get into because I like the look, I like the characters, I like the cabinet, I like the weird fucking joystick, I like the knocker sound.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a really cool looking game, but I never got into it. My friends, growing up, my best friend's mom was very, very into QBert. She would always play the NES version. And she'd play the Super Nintendo version a lot, and she was really good at it. Like, she was one of those people who could just get going on a game of QBert and just go and go and go and go. And I'd always try to pick up something from her while like watching her play. I really never. And then as soon as they start introducing the characters that bounce around and change the color back,
oh, forget it. No,
at that point I just say no. I'm done because I'm annoyed.
It's just too difficult at that point. It's bad enough trying to stay away from everyone. Now you're making it like a chore just to always.
So I can kind of agree. I'm not a huge QBert fan.
The other one that I probably changed my mind on, maybe because it was too complicated at the time, Defender/Stargate.
Love that game.
Too complicated. Those controls were too complicated for me. I remember as a kid, so I got destroyed instantly. Now I more love that game versus, so that one improved for me.
Stargate in particular, I love.
It's difficult, but you can get good at it if you master the control scheme. You can get it. You can get into it. Whether you use the
it's a rush to play too. The sense of speed when you're zipping around in that game is up there. Like everything just feels like
sound design is fantastic.
Everything is
visuals. It all
super well tuned in that game.
Well designed game. Whether you do the button version or the little joystick version, go left and right. I think they had two control schemes, right? Depending upon the version. That's one that grew on me. Now it's turning into ones that more grew on me. A lot of it's when you get older, you get better at these games. When you're 6 and 7, it's hard to play Stargate. Like, you get destroyed at it.
Sure.
For sure. Yeah, that's my short list there. I'm looking at this list of top 50 arcade games, and most of them, I enjoy most of these. For sure. There's not ones where I said, no, I hated that game or I didn't enjoy that on here. They put the original Street Fighter on this list. They should not have. That's not a good game, the original Street Fighter at all. But that was never a popular arcade game, at least here. They put the original Punch-Out in here. That's a tough game. I wouldn't say I hated that game. That's a tough game though. The original Punch-Out, for sure. Any from the 90s that come to mind real quick? Like the 90s, go past the classic golden age into the, call it the Bronze Age, almost, where they were popular. Like, were you not a fan of Mortal Kombat?
I was not. I mean, I am a fan of Mortal Kombat these days. I think they really kind of, the lore is intensely thick and dumb and tough to follow. The story modes in all of the recent console games have been a hoot to play through. I think the combat has improved tremendously. I really like Mortal Kombat now. I did not care for Mortal Kombat. I did not like Mortal Kombat 1. Mortal Kombat 2 appealed to me a little bit, and then Mortal Kombat 3 came out and added the run button, and I went right back to hating it. So and Mortal Kombat 4 I couldn't stand. So of the 4 Mortal Kombats that came out in the 90s, the only one that I liked even a little bit was Mortal Kombat 2.
2 perfected it. 3 broke the fucking design they perfected in 2.
Yeah.
There was no need for the run combos. That became the entire gameplay at that point. The game was garbage. Yeah. When you do combos that take off 60% of your health in one, like, what are you doing? What are you doing? Even Killer Instinct doesn't do that on the combos. For God's sake. It was too much. It was too much combo craziness in the mid 90s at that point. Where it was like, let's take a freaking step back here. Let's do that. The only 90s game I can think for me that I hated that was popular, man, there wasn't a lot of popular ones I didn't play. I liked NBA Jam. I love Mortal Kombat. I love Street Fighter stuff. Obviously, I love Daytona. I love all the racing games. I love Cruising USA. That's a tougher one. Once you got to the 90s, there was a lot less arcade games in general overall versus what there were in the 80s, obviously. But it distilled down into, well, these are all sort of these all make money, so they're mostly fun at that point.
Yeah.
I will say I do like the Sega Time Machine game. I do like that.
Oh, yeah.
That's what most people. Hey, I love that game.